Thank you all for being here this afternoon. We're here to oppose and denounce Mayor Cranley calling the city of Cincinnati a sanctuary city. When a mayor, like Mayor Cranley, decides to publicly announce that he's violating federal law and that he's going to make a city less safe against radical Islam and against the threats we face, we have a responsibility as Americans, as citizens, to oppose this type of act from a mayor, from a politician. A little context. Less than 3 months ago, at The Ohio State University, a Somali refugee and radical Muslim named Abdul Razak Ali Artan drove his car over a curb into a crowd of innocent Americans. He crashed into a concrete embankment. Mr. Artan exited his vehicle and assaulted these innocent Americans with a butcher's knife after driving into them, trying to kill them. Fortunately, a very brave police officer at Ohio State killed this radical Islamic terrorist, this Somali refugee, before he had the opportunity to kill any Americans. This event was obviously horrific for the 11 people hospitalized from knife or collision wounds. It was horrific for the officer, young man who was forced to take a human life. And it was a tragedy for the perpetrator's family as well, who were reckoning with the loss of a child and also the motives behind his attack. Our horror, our empathy for the injured, and our sympathy for Mr. Artan's family cannot blind us to the policy concerns raised by this attack. For Ohioans, this attack at Ohio State, just a little bit up the road, joins a sad list of other attacks dating back to 1993, the World Trade Center, the bombing there, September 11th, the underwear bomber, the Times Square bomber, the Boston Marathon bomber, mass murders at Fort Hood, in Chattanooga, San Bernardino, and Orlando, just to name a few. Some here in Ohio, and some throughout the United States of America, do not want to see attacks like this for what they are. These are attacks on Western civilization. These are attacks on the Judeo-Christian values that we hold dear. These are attacks on our freedom. On Monday, Mayor John Cranley joined city officials to proclaim Cincinnati a sanctuary city, proclaiming it a badge of honor for him to defy federal immigration laws. This is wrong for many reasons, and whether it be here in the city of Cincinnati or in any city in the state of Ohio, sanctuary cities, I believe, are an out-of-touch, misguided policy for multiple reasons. I'm going to walk through a few of them. First, sanctuary cities will undermine our national security. Although Mr. Artan, the perpetrator, the attacker at Ohio State, was a legal resident, eliminating law enforcement will allow other terrorists to go unwatched and unnoticed while future attacks are planned. Secondly, today they demand you can't enforce long-standing immigration law in our cities like John Cranley is doing. Where does that end? Once we accede the principle that cities can snub their nose at federal laws with which they disagree, we've lost our nation, because our nation is founded on the rule of law. Third, what kind of message do sanctuary cities send to immigrants who came here in a legal fashion? Think about the millions of legal immigrants who've come here over generations. Think about the message that John Cranley is sending to them that it's okay for people to violate the law while so many of our ancestors came here in a legal way. And while so many people are standing in line today to come here in a legal fashion. I mentioned the Somali refugee, Abdul Razak Ali Artan at Ohio State, the radical Muslim who attacked there. In 2016, at a shopping mall in Minnesota, Tahir Adan, a Somali refugee. In Kentucky, just south of here, Waad Ramadan Alwan, 30-year-old. Mohammed Sharif Hamadi, 23-year-old, who were refugees that came here from Iraq. Now, one of the things I find interesting and perplexing is in regard to Waad Ramadan Alwan and Mohammed Sharif Hamadi. These two gentlemen came here as Islamic terrorists under the cover of refugees. And when President Obama found out that this happened, President Obama called for a 180-day ban on refugees from Iraq in 2011. Today, you have people like John Cranley and others who were silent back then, but are somehow outraged today. If that's not the definition of hypocrisy, if that's not the definition of political opportunism, I don't know what it is. My grandfather, Joe, was a young man in Kielce, Poland, when the Nazis walked into their community, put them in a ghetto, where he and his 5 siblings and his parents were ultimately put into the camps. He lost his entire family, and with a strength I'll never know, and by an act of God, he survived. At the same time, my grandmother, Fernanda, who was from Italy, was being hidden by a network of very courageous Christian families in Italy. These incredibly courageous Christian families saved my grandmother and her siblings. Simultaneously, around that same time, my grandfather Harold was here in the United States, and he wore the uniform of the United States Army Air Corps. My grandfather Joe from Poland survived the camps. My grandmother Fernanda from Italy survived, and they came over legally, like so many of your ancestors did as well. And they came here so proud to ultimately be Americans. They wanted to learn the language, they wanted to be part of the society, and they wanted to have kids and grandkids who would advance these American ideals as well. Unfortunately, we have people like John Cranley and others who are trying to play politics with this great tradition we have of immigrants coming here in a legal way and building our country to be economically strong, to be religiously strong, and to have strong communities. The foundation of our country is based in rule of law, and the foundation of our country is based in Judeo-Christian values. And what we're doing here today, standing up with fellow citizens from throughout the Cincinnati area, is standing up for the rule of law, standing up for the safety and security of the people of Cincinnati, and standing up for the Judeo-Christian values that we hold dear. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Josh. My name is Chris Monzel. I'm Hamilton County Commissioner, and I have a few words to say today as well, following up on Josh's comments. You know, we've heard quite a bit over the past few weeks, the words that are on the plaque of the base of the Statue of Liberty. Now, give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses, yearning to be free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. Well, I too, 90 years ago, had grandparents that came through. My dad's parents came from Germany, immigrated to America. And they came over and passed by the Statue of Liberty on their way to Ellis Island. And I was talking to my mom about this, and she said, you know, that they had to do three things when they came over. One, they had to have a sponsor. They had to have a family who's going to vouch for them to be here. Number two, they had to have a trade. They had to have something that they were going to be able to contribute to America. You know, my grandfather was a jeweler. And the third one is they had to stay on Ellis Island for a month so that they could be vetted for diseases or other issues that they might have before they would be let into society. Those three things they had to do, and they did it, and they did it legally. And they went through that process, and they became American citizens. And that was one other thing, I was talking to my wife about this last night. She's like, you know, what do they have to do to become an American citizen? And I looked up, and you have to take this oath of allegiance. And I never read this oath of allegiance. You know, I've taken a lot of oaths in office, but this actual oath of allegiance is pretty daunting. And I'm not going to read all of it, but just kind of the first part. It says, I hereby declare on oath that I absolutely and entirely renounce and abjure all allegiance and fidelity to any foreign prince, potentate, state, or sovereignty of whom or which I have heretofore been a subject or citizen. That I will support and defend the Constitution and laws of the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I will bear arms on behalf of the United States when required by law. This is what America meant to them. They sacrificed so much for the privilege of being a United States citizen. And today, in Hamilton County, we welcome anyone into our community who comes here legally, who comes here to support the rule of law. Who, like my grandparents, love America, love Hamilton County, love Cincinnati, who support the rule of law, which is so fundamental to our society, as Josh said. If we don't have that, what do we have? And how can we have elected officials pick and choose what laws they want to enforce? That same rule of law, I said, when I took an oath of office to be an elected official, we swear on doing that, to uphold that when we take our office. And I applaud Hamilton County Sheriff Jim Neal for standing up and upholding that law. And I'm here today as a county official that believes providing for the security and safety of all residents of Hamilton County should be the top priority for all of our elected officials. And I think most Americans would tell you they want every community to be a sanctuary, but for law-abiding citizens. And that's what we're here for today. Thank you.
Well, first of all, I see you, I honor you, I recognize you, and I know who you really are. You are true Americans in this room. Yeah, thank you. It's a privilege and pleasure to join our dynamic Ohio treasurer, Josh Mandel, and I plan to support him all the way in the next 18 months. I'm going to stand by him. I'm going to go all over the state if he will allow me to support him. And I also want to thank the Lord for Chris Monzel, Hamilton County Commissioner. And by the way, you have this commissioner because when I left several years ago when my wife had breast cancer, going through breast cancer recovery, I gave up my seat at City Hall, and he was appointed to my seat, and now you got him. What you say? First of all, I'm Charlie Winburn, and I plan to vote against this measure tomorrow. So I just want to let you all know that. Also, we know that everyone deserves to be treated with honor and civility. Is that correct? Yes. Everyone deserves to be treated, and that includes immigrants. Making Cincinnati a so-called sanctuary city creates an undue burden on our law enforcement officers. The Government Accountability Office reported that in 2009, there were about 300,000 illegal immigrants in local and state jails and prisons. That number has increased since 2009. Arresting and convicting illegal immigrants of crime and letting them stay in the country puts a strain on our law enforcement that it cannot handle. Instead of dealing with our own crime in Cincinnati, and we got plenty of it in Cincinnati, we will be arresting and releasing illegal immigrants back into our communities. Our police officers are already in enough danger when they do their job to police our communities. We are not asking for our police to deport the mother with children who gets pulled over for speeding. We are asking our police officers to respect the law and protect our own citizens from those who might harm those that are in this room and all over our city. With our looming budget deficit, how can we welcome illegal immigrants that we as a city can't even provide for? Our African American communities are suffering as a result of crime. You see the crime, the discrimination, the joblessness, the poverty, the unemployment. Why can't we as a city spend our resources where they matter for the people in our city who need it the most? Our African American communities cannot take a backseat to the whims of politicians and not even Mayor John Cranley. We must stand up for Cincinnatians, for their safety and their future. Political grandstanding should not be prioritized over serving and protecting our communities. In conclusion, President Trump, whether you like him or not, wants to take away federal funding for sanctuary cities. This is very simple. This is very simple. Even if you disagree with his executive order, why would you take a chance to put any federal support for our city in jeopardy? Right. We as a city here in Cincinnati currently are seeking funding for 2 large infrastructure investments. Ohio State Treasurer needs to know that. In our city's history, and it's amazing. He's going. Mr. Cranley and the liberals on council want to pass this. We need the Brent Spence Bridge and the Weston Hills Viaduct. That needs to be supported. Do we want to put that on hold for some cheap political stand? No. Why would we risk that anyway? It's crazy. We cannot be true leaders. Thank you. We cannot be true leaders if we ask those around us to show disrespect for the law. I'm Charlie Winburn, and I approve this message.
You know, oftentimes, city officials, county officials, state officials may not see eye to eye. But I think one of the beautiful things about what we're doing today is you're seeing the city of Cincinnati, county, Hamilton County, and the state coming together here to say, over our dead body, will Cincinnati become a sanctuary city? Yes. Glad to open up to any questions you have.
Josh, so Councilman Winburn alluded to it, federal funding and what's at risk. How serious is that in your view?
I think it's very serious. I mean, the Councilman articulated it very well. There's important priorities here in Southwest Ohio, and it's perplexing and amazing that Mayor Cranley wants to put those at risk to essentially make a political stand in violation of federal law. I mean, it's should be confusing and perplexing to taxpayers throughout Cincinnati and throughout Southwest Ohio.
Would you be okay with that if President Trump said, look, sanctuary city, Cincinnati, you're not going to get funding?
Well, President Trump has made it clear time and time again that infrastructure is a priority. And I think specifically within that, there's been conversations about the Brent Spence Bridge and others. And so if the funding for projects like that ends up being at risk, there's only one person to blame, John Cranley.
That's right.
Any other questions?
There is a line of thought also that it would not be legal Commissioner Fortune was saying that yesterday. Chris, I don't know if you know, we heard him yesterday say this would not be a criminal matter. This thing will end up in the courts.
Well, I'm sure, well, Commissioner Portun's a lawyer, so I'm sure he would know about the, you know, going into court, but I don't think, honestly, it's the right thing to do, right? That we're out here trying to, you know, uphold the law, and to me, the law of the land says you need to do this. So I don't see where he's defining what's doable or not. To me, it's a federal law, and you need to uphold it, and it can risk, you know, our community development block grant money can, you know, actually impact potentially federal funding to not only the city but at the county as well, especially when you look at these infrastructure projects. So I don't know his legal analysis on this. I haven't seen it. I definitely think our prosecutor should weigh into it from the county's perspective to see what is the true legal opinion on whether or not this action is something that's going to cause us any harm from a county. Yeah.
One more thing, if you would. So the campaign was very divisive. The election was extremely divisive. The post-election period was very divisive. We're 10 days into the Trump administration. This is a very divided nation over a lot of things right now. Knowing you over the years, you are someone who has always seeked a healing point. Do you see a healing point anywhere?
Well, you know, John, I think our country has seen this throughout its history, and it's not the first time. I mean, in fact, my 12-year-old studying the election of 1800, right, with Thomas Jefferson, John Adams. So you know, reading back and looking over his schoolwork and just what we have seen in our own history, this is not the first time that we've had this division. And if anything, I think it makes us stronger as a nation to be able to have this conversation. But it needs to be a conversation. It can't be a yelling match. It can't be a temper tantrum. It can't be something that's not a public discourse. And I think that's what's missing. And I think what we need to do is just to have cooler heads prevail and to be able to have that conversation amongst ourselves. And it's, honestly, we're seeing it within our own families, in our own neighborhoods, and our friends. It is divisive, but that's how we've been existing for over 200 plus years. And honestly, I'd rather have it this way than what we've seen in other countries like in North Korea or in Iran or in, you know, former Soviet Union. I'll take this any day because this is what America's all about.
If I can add, first of all, our country is going through a major shift. We're going through what we call a reschooling and retooling. And you know, I like this Bible scripture that talks about iron sharpens iron. Amen. My wife is sharpening me, and I'm sharpening her. City council just sharpened me by the city administration, just took boxes from my office, had the FBI on me. But guess what? I won that. And I believe our country is just going through a major shift. And guess what's going to happen? We're going to come out all right. And we're going to have clarity, and we're going to be much better Americans. So this is all a part of God's process of making us better Americans.
I have a question, Charlie.
Yes.
I'm a citizen of Hamilton County, and I came down here because I was outraged when I saw this yesterday on the news. President Obama did a lot of things we didn't like, some of us, but guess what? We followed the law that he made.
Yes.
And I support President Trump. I believe the majority of Americans did. And therefore, the choice is between whether our elected officials are going to be lawless or abide by the law. So my question is, what can we as citizens do to oust them from office if they choose lawlessness?
Well, first of all,
Before Election Day.
Yes, I appreciate that.
Can you do a referendum? Can you do a petition? I mean, they should not have a choice to break the law.
Yeah, I think we all in this room here have a responsibility on re-educating each other about America. We need to go back to the basics around America, and we've got to support the people did speak. The president is our president, and we've got to support this president, and we've got to stand behind this president, and we've got to encourage this president to do the right thing, and we believe he will do that. But I think on the local level, as I was looking around the room and I looked at Ohio, Josh Mandel and the Honorable Chris Monzel, I was thinking, we don't have that many conservatives around anymore. and it's getting smaller and smaller. The city is becoming more liberal and liberal, and then many of the Republicans who's moving out of the city are moving in the county and moving to Westchester. But we have to come together. I think in this room, here's a good opportunity for us to come together, to put an agenda together. We can't wait on our party to do it. We can't wait on some club to do it. We've got to come together. I see Mike Minalton and others that are here, and Burr and all those, and we need to come together and put our own agenda together and lay out that plan.
Mr. Winburn and citizens, I would like to read something that's very brief to you. All Americans are rightly disturbed by the number of illegal aliens entering our country. That's why our administration has moved aggressively to secure our borders, more by hiring a record number of new border guards, by deporting twice as many criminal aliens as ever before, by cracking down on illegal hiring, by barring welfare benefits to illegal aliens. In the budget, I will present, we will try to do more to speed up the deportation of illegal aliens who are arrested for crimes, to better identify illegal aliens in the workplace. 1995, State of the Union Address, William Clinton.
That's
It's
right.
not about Trump.
That's right.
Do members of the press have any more questions?
I do. Well, it's not really a question, it's a statement. Mayor Cranley is asking all law enforcement individuals, all the cops and sheriffs, to ignore the law, something they took an oath to, to do. So, I mean, it's just a ridiculous thing that he's putting that on. I don't know, how many police officers do we have? 1,000? And then, of course, the sheriff is fine because Sheriff Neal's fine, but in the city, it's just not right.
Jeremy?
Hey.
Do you have a question?
Yeah, I have a question for Treasurer Mandel. So you said over your dead body, which is a pretty strong terminology, and I'm wondering, so you're standing here, I assume, as a candidate, not as Ohio Treasurer. I'm just wondering what you, as a Treasurer, will be doing to stop a sanctuary city designation going forward.
I'm here today. We're trying to rally the people of Cincinnati to call and email their city officials, Mayor Cranley, the city council, to show up at the meeting and convince them that making Cincinnati a sanctuary city is bad for the city, bad for the residents, and bad for our country. And so today, I was at dinner last night, and I left to use the restroom. When I walked out of there, I looked down at my phone and I saw this article. And I called my staff and said, I'm going to Cincinnati tomorrow. I'm going to go do a press conference, and I'm going to stand up against Cincinnati becoming a sanctuary city. This is what leadership is.
Tomorrow at 1:30, we need you at City Council because they will be there tomorrow. If tomorrow is Wednesday City Council meeting, you need to be there a little early than 1:30 so you can speak. You got to fill out a yellow card. We need you there. If this group would show up tomorrow, that could be huge for us at City Hall.
Thanks, everyone.